Christy Hughes. I am here to rock the damn boat. I am all about coloring outside the lines, pushing out of your comfort zone, growing your comfort zone. Sometimes once you expand that comfort zone, there is no going back to the way that you used to be. So believe in that, believe in yourself. Today we are talking about some historic examples of people who rocked the boat in film. I am 50 years old. I turned 50 June 13th. It was a Friday the 13th this year. I was born in 1975, so raise your hand if you are a child of the 80s. I know there probably are a lot of women of a certain age in my listening audience because those of us who are hitting 50, we are hitting our stride. It is not like it used to be. You know, you see those memes of the Golden Girls and what they looked like, and they were supposed to be 55 and in this assisted living facility, or maybe just senior living, you know, some like retirement communities. So nothing wrong with that at all. But when we look at, you know, hairstyles and different ways that we've changed, I think that the reason people don't think women my age look 50 is because we just, you know, we're not perming our hair at the beauty shop anymore. We are getting highlights and layers and all the fun things that keep us looking young and vibrant. We also are moving our bodies in different ways. Now, if you've listened to my diet culture episode, then you know that I am, you know, whatever. It's a free-for-all, whatever you eat. I mean, you can't put anything in your mouth these days. Like, I confessed to my copious amounts of ice cream and pints of Bluebell, and no, it's not as forgiving anymore. But today we are talking about fried green tomatoes, not ice cream. Funny story, I was thinking about all the ways that I was going to push out of my comfort zone, including this podcast, and if you're watching me on video, I had a little piece of lint on my lip. I had been inspired recently to rewatch Fried Green Tomatoes. I don't know why. It wasn't like a big favorite movie of mine. I probably watched it. I mean, I know I watched it when it came out. I looked it up. I believe it was 1991 or 92. So the movie is like almost 35 years old, which is just crazy to me. But in 92, I was a senior in high school. I probably related to the younger characters just a tiny bit. Izzy Threadgood is played by Mary Stuart Masterson, and then Ruth is played by Mary Louise Parker. I think I'm getting that right. Gosh, 3 names for each of them. So they're the younger women who open the cafe, and there's a lot of drama in their lives, and I get it. Like, I was rewatching it, and it just, wow, it was very eye-opening. And of course, there's this parallel storyline with Kathy Bates, and she is going through menopause. Oh my gosh, when this movie came out, I probably didn't even understand what that meant. And now here I am, Kathy Bates' age in that movie, which is so bizarre. If you're watching any movies these days that you watched as a kid or as a teenager, it just really is strange to be so relatable. Like, that's what our parents related to at the time, and we were kids and we didn't get it, and now here we are talking about menopause. And Jessica Tandy plays the sweet lady that she talks to at the nursing home, who reminds me of so much of my granny, just small and petite in her little voice and her little eyes. And my grandma Polly was a big influence on my life. If you ever read my memoir, Strong Roots, Wayward Soul, you will learn all about Polly, who she was, how she influenced me. I was thinking I was going to watch Fried Green Tomatoes like 2 weeks ago, and I didn't for whatever reason. So I decided to rent it over this past weekend, and I started watching it Saturday night. And I didn't realize, first of all, that it was a 2-hour movie. I did not think that movies were 2 hours long in 1992. It feels like growing up, we were more in like the 90-minute, maybe a longer movie was an hour 40 minutes, but this was a 2-hour movie. And I'm 50 years old now, so I go to bed, like I stayed up until 10 and I still had 20 minutes of the movie left. So I had to watch that a couple of days later. It was fine because, well, spoiler alert, somebody was dying in the movie and it was sad and I was not wanting to end on that note anyway. I really didn't remember. I mean, I remembered a lot of the movie, but like I said, I don't think I watched it that much as a teenager. But I remembered Tawanda, and that was probably the signature line, the earmark of that movie, like the banner of that movie is, Tawanda. Anytime Iggy would do something wild and crazy, anytime she would rock the damn boat, she would say, Tawanda, like, get out of my way, who cares? This is my, fierce warrior name is Tawanda. I did remember very specifically, and this is actually why I wanted to go back and watch the movie. I remembered very specifically the scene where Kathy Bates is in her car waiting for a parking spot, and these two younger women zip into her parking spot in a Volkswagen Beetle convertible, I think is what they're driving. And she says, hey, I was waiting for that spot. And one of the two young women says, face it, lady, we're older and not older, foreshadowing, something to the effect of, we're younger and faster. And Kathy Bates puts her foot on the gas, throws it into gear, and rams into their car. And when they run out and ask what the heck is going on, she says, face it, girls, I'm older and I have more insurance. That line stuck with me, obviously, for almost 35 years. And I never, of course, at the time, I was 16, 17. I did not understand what that meant, but I loved that spunk of Kathy Bates' character. And I could relate to so much, especially in rewatching it, about what it meant to be a Southern Christian good girl. And that's definitely a recurring theme. If you start to listen to me regularly, that is what I consider to be rocking the damn boat, is letting go of this children should be seen and not heard, and we need to do everything in our power to put others first. And what about us? And that is her mindset that entire movie. She finally realizes, what about me? Her husband's ignoring her. He sits in front of the TV with the beautiful dinner that she cooks every night. He's just totally being a bump on a log, and she wants more. And they're empty nesters, and we find out later she's going through menopause. And I think about when Jessica Tandy was talking to her, the elderly lady was explaining to her about menopause. I thought, my gosh, I wouldn't have even known what that meant at the time. And I've talked to my mom a little bit about it, and I don't know if she's comfortable with me sharing, but she, like many, many, many women, had a hysterectomy young, and so for her, it wasn't the same as my journey is. And I would suspect that quite a few of my listeners and my friends might have been in the same instance where mom might not know a whole lot about it. And even if mom knew about it, she probably was not talking about it. And that is the beauty of today's women, today's Gen X. We are all going through this and we are talking about it. And Naomi Watts is talking about it, and I'm sure Chelsea Handler is talking about it, and I'm failing to come up with any other examples right at this moment, but we are all talking about it. And we're talking about the changes that our bodies are going through. We are talking about hot flashes and all of these things that make our lives miserable at times. Thankfully for me, my hot flashes have gone away. I hear they come back, so trust me, I'm not I'm going to look a gift horse in the mouth for right now and just, wait, I got that wrong. Anyway, whatever. I am enjoying life without hot flashes at the moment. The other movie that came to mind when I was thinking about 90s movies that push us out of our comfort zone and make us think about being different than everyone else, which was very apparent in Fried Green Tomatoes. I would say, by today's standards, there was probably an unrequited lesbian love affair happening, and different things about race that unfortunately still permeate our culture today. So it really dealt with a lot more issues than my 17-year-old self even acknowledged. I was probably watching it because I was a fan of Mary Stuart Masterson, who was also in Some Kind of Wonderful with Eric Stoltz, and she ends up getting the guy at the end, and she's kind of the tomboy, and that's how I felt. So I was never Leah Thompson in those movies. The other movie that I was obsessed with and probably have seen, I don't even know how many times, Pump Up the Volume. Any Christian Slater fans in the house? He has aged nicely. I can't remember the last thing I've seen him in, but I know he's still acting today, so we still get to see a little bit of Christian Slater. I was obsessed with that movie. I was obsessed with Samantha Mathis, who is also still acting today. Like anybody else when we were that age. Now she's playing moms in everything that she acts in, but it's all good. And I loved that movie because it was so, I could relate to all of those kids who felt so stifled by life, by cliques, by parents, by whatever the thing was that held them back, and these societal norms, and not being normal, and feeling like a misfit, and not fitting in. And I could relate to all of these kids in there. And so anytime that Hard Harry, Christian Slater's alter ego, would speak to them, I understood why they were so enamored with him. And what was so funny about that movie, if you've seen it or if you're going to go out and watch it, because I'm talking about it, he hides behind that because he's so shy. He cannot talk to people in person, and definitely has a hard time talking to women. And so he has this huge alter ego. I feel a little bit the same still today. Like, I'm pretty quiet and shy. I used to be a massive introvert. That was a huge self-limiting belief of mine, was that I am an introvert. And I would say today people would be surprised to hear that, but I am the type of introvert that needs a little recharge. I can be easily overstimulated by huge groups of people and by being on all of the time. And so thankfully, after I record this episode, I get to nourish myself with a little moon salutation yoga. Pump Up the Volume took place in Arizona, and that was a crazy realization for me watching it as an adult too, because I ended up living in Phoenix, Arizona from 2012 to 2016. And it was such a place of rebirth for me. I moved there to escape a bad relationship. I had broken up with someone, and I moved there for a fresh start and a job with PetSmart headquarters. And I lived there for 4 years. I ended up meeting my husband, Ryan. We lived 4 streets apart and met at a dive bar, which is actually out of commission, has been torn down. But I loved everything about Arizona, and I loved the symbolism of the phoenix. I rose from the ashes with that move. It was the fresh start that I needed. And unlike Christian Slater's character, where he has trouble meeting people, I met a ton of people in Arizona. I would talk to people. I just wanted to make the most of this move. And it was my first adventure out of Texas. I felt like I was rocking the damn boat by leaving my family behind, and not in an energetic way. It wasn't like I said, oh, forget it, like walls up, never gonna talk to you guys again. I just needed to physically go do something that was my own journey and my path to forge, because I had lived my entire life just like all of my family, being very close together. And while I loved and adored Polly, we had certain standards for how we spent our time on holidays and all of that, and traditions. So I'm not knocking traditions by any means. But I had such a hard time leaving Texas because I felt bound to family obligations. I am so glad I made that move. I never would have met Ryan. I never would have stepped out of my comfort zone. And even though I did not get sober in Arizona, it was where I first became sober curious. And I definitely planted the seeds, started to try to get my life on track. I wanted to turn 40 sober, and I didn't, but I turned 43 sober. I've been sober 7.5 years. So that was me, going against the grain for my own life and really rocking the boat by choosing a life of sobriety and choosing to change friendships and change how I lived my life. So I'm inspired by those two movies when it comes to rocking the damn boat. Tawanda, that was a character who embodies that spirit. Hard Harry, Christian Slater, Dreamboat back in 1990 when that movie came out. I would love to hear about any of the boat rocking role models that you have. I mean, there are plenty of them. But if you're someone who's like me and maybe a little confined Christian and has trouble stepping out of your shell and out of your comfort zone, maybe it's someone, a little more innocent than like a shock jock, Howard Stern or someone like that. But who do you love that embodies that energy, rocks the boat, no apologies? I want to hear about it in the comments. That's your homework this week, is to drop me a name, a movie, whatever it is that we can all be inspired by. I'm Christy Hughes. Rock the damn boat.